Hey dudes, and welcome back to the Bantz. As always, I am your host, the Bantz, and here we are once again on another Monday. And wait a second, what? It's not Monday? Are you serious? Okay, so maybe it's Tuesday. Sorry about the late upload, guys, but it's still the beginning of the week, so it's time for our first What's Happening in Fashion for the week, so let's just get right into it. And first up, of course, we have our headlines for the day. And first up, designer Riccardo Tisci and Burberry just announced their newest drop strategy for their newest releases. And if this strategy sounds familiar to you, then you'd be absolutely correct. We've talked about this idea already twice, sort of, before. The first being with the Moncler Genius collection and how they plan to do drops monthly alongside the regular Moncler collection. But in a much more similar concept, we just talked about how Eddie is planning to do streetwear style drops with Celine in his newest collection as well. And just as I talked about it with Eddie and Celine, I do think this is a fantastic idea. And it's really interesting to see now more luxury houses kind of going along this hype train of kind of pushing the marketing on these more limited edition, these more exclusive pieces to get as many eyes on them as possible and then release them in this streetwear drop-esque style. The only real question left now is how many other designers and fashion houses will jump onto this train, and then if a lot of them do, how will this affect how the industry works in the future? But I guess only time can really tell at this point. Then brand Doublet showed off their fall-winter 2018 lookbook, so let's talk about it. And for those of you wondering why I'm putting the Doublet lookbook in our headlines for the day, well, it's because if you do remember, this brand is the one that just recently won the LVMH prize. So from this point on, there really is a lot of limelight and pressure to see exactly what the brand is able to produce. And after seeing this lookbook, I personally think that they have a long way to go. But let's start off with the good first, shall we? Looking at this lookbook, I do enjoy a lot more of some of the maximalized pieces here. I think they did a really nice job kind of layering the graphics and embroideries over each other. I do like the style of the embroideries, and I think they're pretty well done too. Aside from that, the pieces that they're more renowned for, the kind of quirky slash verbally descriptive pieces, show up once again in this lookbook, and I don't personally like them myself, but even so, I do think they did a very nice job with them. But with that said, all the good points I just talked about really only makes up about 25% of this collection, which means that yes, I think 75% of this collection is really not that good. To start off with, let's go back to those maximized pieces. As much as I do enjoy some of them, they are so overused in this collection. And it's not necessarily a bad thing to use a lot of maximalism, but if it's the same exact print and or embroidery placed on the same exact location, just on different pieces, that's pretty fucking lazy. And when it comes to more of their other designs outside of the more quirky graphic pieces, a lot of them also feel just really underdeveloped and really just kind of shoddily slapped together. But really my biggest problem with this collection here is just the copious amount of copying of other fashionable brands that we've come to see so often in recent years. Like, what am I supposed to say here? Am I supposed to just be like, oh wow, look at all this distressed denim and tracksuits and oversized silhouettes and raw hemmed pieces? I've never ever seen any of this before, and you're actually going to tell me that this brand deserves to be the LVMH winner? I think not. Just because you made one interesting and quirky design that the internet and the fashion world just happened to latch onto doesn't mean you're capable of making a good brand. And if you guys want to be anything worth a shit within the next coming years, then you're seriously gonna have to buckle down and work on this. Alright, and now let's move on to our art stories for the day. And first up, artist Prusa showed off some of her newest drawings, and I think these are just super interesting. If you find yourself a fan of monochromatic or almost monochromatic hues, very in-depth drawing styles, and really symmetrical works and patterns, definitely check this out. Then artist David Rice showed off some of his newest paintings, and I absolutely love some of the creativity in here. If you're a fan of realism mixed with just a slight touch of surrealism, definitely look into these. And last but not least, artist Lorien Stern showed off some of her newest sculptures, this time specifically in the motif of the shark head, which she's done a couple times. Love the creativity, love the playfulness of these pieces, and even though they're no longer for sale, still think the photos are definitely worth checking out. Okay, and now moving back into our fashion section for the day. First up, 11 by Boris B. John Saberi showed off their Spring-Summer 2019 lookbook, and for as different as it was, I really enjoyed most of it. Now, for most of you familiar with BBS, you've come to know him for his kind of dark motifs and sleek silhouettes and really nice technical and functional tech wear. And specifically in his subline, this 11 line, we tend to see a lot of that tech wear usually mixed in with a lot of streetwear elements. But we don't see a lot of that in this collection here. Instead, what we see is a lot more contemporary menswear pieces and designs, and honestly, I find it all very interesting. Although I'm not a huge fan of some of the outfits and some of the silhouettes here, I am willing to give BBS the benefit of the doubt, mainly because this is a style that he's not super familiar with. But really, aside from that, I absolutely love some of the use of materials here, which we really haven't seen him use before. I do like a lot of the ideas, a lot of the detailing and aesthetics on some of these pieces, even if they're not perfect. And most of all, and above everything else, the hybrid pieces he has in here, the hybrids of the tech and contemporary pieces, really well done. There have been a lot of contemporary and tech brands fusing the two ideologies together recently, and although the other brands up until this point have definitely been more refined, to see BBS hop onto this idea as well too is super cool. And if BBS decides to continue along this line of more contemporary instead of streetwear for upcoming 11 seasons, then I am so excited to see what comes next. Then the Hundreds came together with legendary adult magazine Playboy to show off their newest collaboration, and I have no words. Leave it to Bobby to fuck up something as iconic as a Playboy collaboration. Now, I have no problem with Playboy whatsoever. I have no problem with them collaborating with fashion brands, and I actually don't even have a problem with the amount of collaborations they've done over the years. But seriously, how do you fuck up this bad? Like, not even counting these just poorly designed pieces and these lazily slapped on slogans and brand names. What the fuck? Like, what the fuck is this logo? Like, going back to what I said earlier, there have been a lot of Playboy collaborations out there, and we have seen a lot of different variations of the Playboy bunny logo, but this is fucking awful. It's fucking awful. That's all I got. That's it. Then Midnight Studios showed off their newest collaboration, this time with renowned punk band the Sex Pistols, and really it's about time that this collection came out. Unlike we've seen with a lot of other recent collaborations with other bands in the rock genre hemisphere. I'm using it as a collective term, alright? Fucking sue me. The colors in this collection actually do make sense for once. And on top of this, I really do like some of the accessories here. I do think all the graphics are really nice as well. And although I personally don't like some of these silhouettes here, and I think that Johnny would probably agree with me, then again, he'd probably just disagree with this collection entirely. I do think that Shane was able to pull off a pretty good collection overall. Then the North Face returned with another collection from their Black series, this time highlighting the idea of seamless technology, and I'm just going to bullet point some of my thoughts here. 1. The pieces here, I actually really like them. I really enjoy the idea, I really enjoy the designs, although I really think the fact that they chose anything outside of black, white, and gray as colors is absolutely atrocious. 2. The graphic tees in this collection, what the fuck were you thinking? These are such an awful ripoff of every single drawing that Aitor Thrope has ever done. You should be fucking ashamed of yourself. And 3, and really my main point I wanted to get across talking about this was, now that we've seen a few different seasons of the Black collection, what the fuck is it actually? The first season that was introduced to us showed off this collection that supposedly revolved around this idea of urban exploration. And although it did do that, albeit in a very rough state, it also showed off some kind of Japanese-inspired tech ideas as well. Then they showed off those really metallic foil pieces, which felt alright, and I thought the silhouettes were okay, but they felt very lunar core, which was a huge variation off of the prior season. Then they showed off a Sashiko set, which once again was somewhat decent but felt very manufactured, but was once again even more derivative of the first 2 seasons. And now we have this here, which does feel a lot more like the first season, but has nothing supposedly to do with urban exploration, and is going more for a highly technical idea instead, on top of some really shoddy Aitor Thrope ripoffs. So I guess what I'm really trying to say here is, to the North Face, why even make this subline a thing instead of its own just varying capsule collections if you're not going to keep a cohesive idea behind it? And once again, really fucking shame on you for ripping off Aitor Thrope. And finally, let's move on to our articles for the day. And first up, Naomi Campbell sat down with Kim Jones to talk a little bit about the culture and Dior, and although I really don't agree with a lot of the things he said here, I still think if you're interested in him, it's worth a watch. Then Japanese brand Cav Empt showed off a short film that they just made, and if you've ever really kind of wondered a little bit more about what the brand means or some ideas behind the brand, this will definitely kind of lead you in the right direction. And lastly, Hypebeast did a very nice and in-depth article on the Japanese subculture that they have dubbed as outdoors style, which you might have heard me refer to before as like mountaineering core or hiking core or something along those lines. And they did a really nice job of breaking it down, going into a lot of detail here. And if you really enjoy this style or are open to learning about it, then this is definitely worth the read. Alright guys, and with that we reached the end of our first whip for the week. I hope you guys have enjoyed. And as always, if you want to read any of the articles I talked about today or look at some photos I wasn't able to include, I've linked everything in the description down below. And if you are new here, then welcome to the channel. We do these What's Happening in Fashion videos twice a week, usually on Mondays and Fridays, plus another side video video here and there as well. So if you're interested in seeing more, feel free to subscribe. Otherwise, if you just have any questions, comments, concerns, or even just want to talk fashion in general, feel free to hit me up in the comments down below. I am always willing to talk fashion. And once again, thank you guys for watching these videos and supporting my content, and thank you guys all for the recent amount of subscribers I've gotten. It's not a lot, but it still means a lot to me. And with that, I hope you have a good couple days until I see you next, and as always, until next time.